Let's talk about our latest sponsor from Hims. Look, weight loss as it should be. Weight loss drugs everywhere. They are everywhere right now, and they may seem pricey and out of reach. Until now, Hims is changing the game and offers weight loss drugs with the same active ingredients as Ozempic and Wegovy, except they're accessible and affordable at hims.com/touchdown. You can get treatment prescribed 100% online. A medical provider on platform can determine if a weight loss plan is right for you, and if prescribed, your personalized plan ships to you directly, free to your door for as little as $69 a month with a 10-month plan for oral medications or $165 per month. Compounded GLP-1 plan, paid up front. No hidden fees, no access fees, and no membership fees. Get started at hims.com/touchdown. That's hims.com/touchdown. Having said all that, guess what? Woke gasbag, who's never written anything of interest, Mike Freeman. If Mike Freeman didn't have stupid race thoughts, then Mike Freeman would not have thoughts. He is clearly a victim of the Trump derangement syndrome. He is. I mean, there are some people that are upset with Trump, and then there are some people who are obsessed with Donald Trump. And Freeman, the USA Today writer, I know you don't know who he is, but he is the USA Today writer. Actually, we refer to him as a USA Today clown. Yeah, we do. It says right there. He believes it. Listen to this. You got to listen to this. Donald Trump is ruining the NFL and the Super Bowl, attacking Trump, now, wait for it, for his supposed thoughtlessness for attending a game that features, hold on, black quarterbacks. Now, if they were white quarterbacks, apparently Donald Trump could come to the game. But the president of the United States, being the first sitting president to ever attend a Super Bowl, which is very weird to me, somehow, some way, attending the game is going to overshadow the fact that we have two black quarterbacks. I could argue that we have one black quarterback and one white quarterback, as the mother of Mahomes is a Caucasian. I mean, take it for whatever it's worth, but who really cares? And the fact that you're going to have Donald Trump, the first sitting president to ever sit at a game in the Super Bowl, at the Super Bowl, is phenomenal, and it adds to it. Yeah, I don't care what some woke guy – at this point, what they're doing is they're just making it up. They're just making up things to be angry about. I mean, you got to dig deep to say this. All right, hold on. On Tuesday, now listen, follow me here, Freeman published an article calling it a disgrace that President Donald Trump will reportedly attend the Super Bowl on Sunday. Freeman says Trump's attendance will ruin one of America's best days. That's right. Some nondescript, race-baiting, racist clown says that the most popular, most powerful human being on the planet attending the game is, make sure we understand, a disgrace and will ruin one of America's great days. You can't make this stuff up. The level of stupid when it comes to race and then Donald Trump is off the chain, yo. It is. It's off the absolute freaking train, these idiots. I don't know what to tell you. There is nothing you can do here. The fact Trump will be at the same game as someone as thoughtful, as Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts is playing. And, oh, my God, can you imagine? I mean, when I think deep thinkers, I think Socrates, Confucius, and Jalen Hurts. I mean, how don't you? I mean, hey, Jalen Hurts can drop back and throw a ball to another guy. He can run and get tackled. He's unbelievable. This is so – you got to really dig deep. This is what makes this funny. Like, I get if you want to go back to something Trump has said or maybe Trump something has done and you want to be angry, that's great. But you got to give deep in the archives of stupid. And Mike Freeman absolutely digs deep into the archives of stupid to bring this out. The fact that Trump will be at the same game as someone as thoughtful as Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts is playing in is a remarkable contradiction. Right. This week, Hurts spoke about the evolution of the black quarterback and how he doesn't take this moment lightly, where two black quarterbacks are again playing in the Super Bowl. It's the kind of thoughtfulness we've come to expect from here and the kind of depth Trump doesn't possess. No, that's right. No, really, that's right. I mean, look, nobody could be as deep as to say, man, it's great we got a couple black quarterbacks again. I mean, that's deep. I mean, seriously, that's unbelievable. I mean, all Donald Trump is doing is exposing government waste. He's fighting battles on different fronts to keep fentanyl into our country. He's closed down the borders to the point where 95% closure is happening. It's down 95%. But, hey, he's not deep enough, according to Mike Freeman. No, nobody could possibly be. Nobody. He couldn't possibly be as deep as to say, hey, it's kind of cool we got 2 black quarterbacks. Wow. Holy hell. My head just spun around. Trump obviously doesn't possess the depth of a guy who got his education at Alabama and Oklahoma. 2 schools where if you can breathe, you get in, period. All right. Though Trump he's not even touched down in New Orleans. Freeman says the president has already had a negative impact on the game. He suggests Trump is behind the NFL's decision to remove "end racism" from the back of the Super Bowl end zone and promote messages like "choose love and it takes all of us." What horrible messages. This is legitimately the dumbest discussion we've ever had. No, it is. This is legitimately the dumbest article ever written, which makes Mike Freeman, again, the dumbest human being we've ever dealt with. No, seriously, the fact the league made this move at the same time Trump is attending the game could be the greatest coincidence of all time. It looks weird. Just for the record, racism isn't over. We'll check my sources. Pretty sure that's accurate. I agree. I mean, the racism that Mike Freeman and his ilk, Jamel Hill and others, promote on a daily basis says to me racism is not over. Certainly stupidity's not over. Think about how deep you got to dig here. As for Freeman, he can't help but chuckle at him beginning his article by claiming to put politics and his differences aside for the Super Bowl. That's what he says. For background, Freeman is the same USA Today author who last year mocked unarmed, made-up haters for the blackest, most woke Super Bowl ever. We'd take Freeman's "keep politics out of my sports" pledge more seriously if he were consistent. He's not. In April, he thanked LeBron James for using his sports platform to endorse Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris. Another idiotic move. I mean, let's be honest, man. Mark Cuban is among the morons. Mark Cuban is a very smart man. I'm sure Freeman is too. I'm sure everybody's smart. Everybody's smart. Let's just go that route. The whole world is smart. The only people that are dumb are me. Let's go. But I got to tell you, you smart people don't sound so smart sometimes. I mean, I get what LeBron James tried to do. I get he got to get on the right side of it, yo. I mean, he had to. Right? He's in California, African-American. You got a African-American. I guess she's African-American. I don't know what the hell she was. But anyway, so he tried to get on the right side, and people very quickly said, get the hell out of here. If Mike Freeman was anybody that anybody recognized as having any talent, people would be more up in arms on this saying, look, stupid, because it's safe now. Now, it's safe to come out and say, I'm all in on what Donald Trump is doing. I mean, when you look at the spending and the waste and what he's exposing, how can you not be? Like, how can you sit there and say, if you just go by actions to this point, he got more done in 4 years in the positive. Now, don't make no mistake. Joe Biden got a lot done in the negative. But Mike Freeman et al., they don't understand that. They just see race. They don't see achievement. Arrogance without achievement is Mike Freeman's mantra. I'm just going to be arrogant. I'm just going to tell you. I'm going to make stuff up because that's all this is. It's just made up garbage. And you know what? We're going to keep it moving. We are. We're going to keep it moving, and we're going to say to ourselves, we cannot be this dumb. We will not be this dumb. I refuse to be this dumb. Donald Trump, speaking of achievement, yesterday did something that a lot of us here at OutKick have championed. And I would argue, I think I would. I would argue that this bill that Donald Trump signed, not basically, but absolutely saying women should not participate or men should not participate in women's sports, this bill I don't think happens without OutKick. It certainly doesn't happen without Riley Gaines. It certainly can't happen without Riley Gaines. Everybody now is on board. In fact, I saw something yesterday where even Stephen A. Smith, that coward, now is saying it shouldn't happen. Really? I mean, you got clearance all of a sudden to say it. Now all of a sudden it's okay to say it. After years of crushing souls, I love when Nick and Nick write this, and dreams of women athletes, across the country. Woke-ass Charlie Baker, the head of the NCAA, has finally come to his senses and bent the knee to Donald Trump. Boy, that had to hurt, too. Oh, that had to be like the first time you bend a knee after you get knee surgery or knee replacement. That had to really hurt. I mean, that had to be painful. He announced, listen to this, wait for it, the NCAA will follow Donald Trump's edict, and I'm going to say it's an edict. He will follow Donald Trump's edict, and they will no longer allow biological men to compete against biological women in women's sports. Dun, 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 dun. I mean, think about what I just said there. We had to have a bill. We had to have a president sign a bill that says dudes can't play against chicks in women's sports. I said all along, you know what I've said? I've said all along, I'm all for inclusivity. I'm all for everybody play against the men. That's it. Everyone, you want to go be what? What do you want to do? You want to be a, swimmer? Swim against the men. You want to be a boxer? Box against the men. I don't care. I've said it forever, and I'll say it again. Box against the men. All right. Charlie Baker decided he's going to go along with Donald Trump's edict. The NCAA is an organization made up of 1,100 colleges and universities in all 50 states. Here we go. That collectively enroll more than 530,000 student athletes. We strongly believe that clear, consistent, uniform eligibility standards would best serve today's student athletes instead of a patchwork of conflicting state laws and court decisions. To that end, President Trump's order provides a clear national standard. That's right. It does. Very clear, very national. The NCAA Board of Governors is reviewing the executive order and will take necessary steps to align NCAA policies in the coming days, subject to further guidance from the administration. The association will continue to help foster welcoming environments on campuses for all student athletes. We stand ready to assist schools as they look for ways to support any student athletes affected by these changes. Why don't you just say this is what we're going to do? Why don't we just do that? President Donald Trump's Department of Education launched an investigation into potential Title IX violations that occurred at multiple educational institutions hour after he signed an executive order to ban trans athletes from women's sports. There you go. The department's Office of Civil Rights will be investigating San Jose State University, University of Pennsylvania, MIT, basically, the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association, for separate incidents involving trans athletes competing on a women's or men's team. And there you go. Congratulations to every person on the left who has been campaigning to destroy women's sports. Now, what a great day. There you go. There's Donald Trump signing into law. J.K. Rowling is there. But I thank Hims for joining us and thank Hims for setting up this big set. Leigh Steinberg joins me. I got to tell you, I don't know the history, but in my world, you're the first super agent. You're like the man who created all this stuff. Let me ask you, how did you become Leigh Steinberg? How'd you create an entire industry as an agent?
You know, I was a dorm counselor going to UC Berkeley in the late 60s, early 70s, and they moved the freshman football team into my dorm at Cal, and one of the students was Steve Bartkowski, who was the quarterback. And in 1975, he became the very first player picked in the first round of the draft, and he asked me to represent him.
Wait, whoa. He's the first. You're a student at this time.
You're
the counselor.
I graduated. That's when I met him. But I had graduated from law school, and I was getting ready to accept an offer. And the first pick in the first round asked me to represent him, and we got the largest rookie contract in NFL history. And it really, there was no industry. Teams had no obligation to talk to agents. They could just slam down the phone and say, we don't deal with agents. So it was real rudimentary at that time. But I saw in that first experience how the athletes could be role models, and how if they went back and retraced their roots to high school, college, and pro, set up a charitable foundation, worked with a scholarship at the high school, and a charitable foundation that attacked the problem. So that's like work done putting the 200 single mothers and their families in the first home they'll ever own. So that became our sort of philosophy, and it built from there. And ultimately, I had 64 first-round draft picks in football, and the very first pick in the first round 8 years, and 12 players in the Hall of Fame. But then we did baseball and basketball and some soccer and boxing with Lennox Lewis and Oscar De La Hoya. And it built there on the principle that you can put sports in the forefront of making a positive difference in the world.
Tom Cruise played you, basically. I mean, am I right about that? I mean, everybody, it's that old thing. Who do you want to play in the movie, right? I mean, I would have like Shemp or somebody from the three. But Tom Cruise, that was based on you.
So it was based on the time that Cameron Crowe spent with me, the director-writer. So he started following me in 1993. He went to the NFL draft where I had Drew Bledsoe. He came up to the press conference with the New England Patriots. He came to Pro Scouting Day, league meetings, and I told him lots of stories, hours and hours of stories. So we went off and he wrote the script. And then as technical advisor, my job was to vet the script to make sure the willing suspension of disbelief that holds you in a motion picture didn't get broken. You knew the dialogue was the way people actually talk. You knew the look was that way. And then he assigned me some of the actors like Cuba Gooding Jr., and I took him down to the Super Bowl in Phoenix, and he had to pretend he was a wide receiver client of mine all week. I actually showed the quarterback in the film, was played by Jerry O'Connell, how to throw a spiral because he had gone to NYU and they didn't have a football program. So it's been like 27 years, and when I flew into New Orleans last night, somebody ran up and did what people have been doing for years, which is yelled, "Show me the..."
I was at a craps table with Cuba Gooding Jr. in
Yes.
Vegas. I got to tell you, probably closer to 100 people over the course of a long run we had. We had a pretty good run at the craps table.
Good.
But so many people yelled, "Hey, Cuba, show me the money!" It's like, and I looked at him, and I go, "Happen a lot?" He goes, "Come on, every minute of every day."
I have it at airports and restaurants, and but the funny thing was, we were at the league meetings, and there was a free agent named Tim McDonald, and Cameron was spending some time with him, picking up atmosphere about free agency, and they went up into Cameron's room, and Moneyline with Lou Dobbs was on in the background. And he said, "Well, Tim, what are you looking for in this free agency experience?" And he said, "I'm looking for someone to show me winning, which I've never had, looking for someone to show me some respect, and I'm looking for someone to show me the money."
That's where it came from.
That's where it came from.
Isn't that something? When you do something like that, Mike Tirico, the announcer, said something along the lines of what you said. When he started doing horse racing, he does football, basketball, whatever. When he started doing horse racing, he had to learn the language of horse racing. Every sport has a language. And to what you said about that movie, you had to make sure that they spoke football, basically, right? And then you probably had to make sure they spoke draft, right? And then you had to make sure they spoke
agent.
Yeah, right? I mean, because there's a language to all of this
Right.
stuff. Can you expound on that a little bit?
So every field has its own vernacular, and part of signing Bartkowski was that someone told me, "Tell him that he does a good job looking off the receivers." So of course I use that phraseology.
Right.
And but the funny thing about it is I think some of these announcers on TV use football phraseology, and no one in the public has any idea what is too deep or double coverage or whatever.
To your point, one of my good friends, I did college basketball on ESPN for 10 years, and the director directs the biggest college football game, the Saturday night game, whatever, on ESPN. And I text him all the time. I go, "All your announcers talk about leverage." I think I know sports. I played. I don't know what the hell leverage means. Well, you have some, but you're exactly right. Like if somebody says, well, they're in a 2 deep. All right, what the hell does that mean? Right? That's so true.
I represent athletes for the last 50 years in football. I don't know what some of those phrases mean.
It's funny you say that because I'm telling you, but if I'm home and the game is on and an announcer uses leverage, I'm immediately text, hey, man, can you have him explain? I told you this off air. Last night I was at a party, Mike Ditka's Jaws. It was a great party, great cause, all that stuff. But I knew your party. I'd heard about the Leigh Steinberg party, but my wife and I are looking at auction items, and there's all kind of, and I go, Leigh, I'm going to tell you, that's my wife's name, Leigh. I go, Leigh, I'm going to tell you the best auction item here is that right there. And it was like, I don't know, bid on 2 passes to your party. Your party is great. Everybody attends, but it's for a great cause, too. And I think the NFL has really done a good job. Tell me if I'm wrong. You deal with the brain. But have they done a good job with correcting things in the game to make it safer?
So this week I set up a charitable foundation on the issue of concussion, and you can go to Leigh Steinberg Foundation.org to learn more about it. So it's for prevention, awareness, and cure. And the quick answer is yes, they've done a better job with the concussion protocol, with the enforcement of rules against using the head and neck and tackling or blocking. It's better. But the problem is that the reason I started this is I had a crisis of conscience back in the 1980s. I was representing half the starting quarterbacks. They kept getting hit in the head. We would go to doctors and ask how many is too many. They had no answers. So I started holding concussion conferences, and we'll have a brain health summit at the hour before the party tomorrow. And eventually we found out that 3 or more caused an exponentially higher rate of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, premature senility, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and depression. So I called it a ticking time bomb. So we need to keep moving. Now, the good news is there are 2 treatments, one called neurofeedback and the other called TMS, which is magnets against the head, that can actually
Hello Speaking
there.
of concussions, wait a second. Emmitt Smith jumping. Sit down. Grab a mic. Sit down. Sit down. Hey, I'll ask you the same question. Leigh was talking about is the sport safer now? And he does a seminar on concussions. What do you think?
You're still having concussions, right?
Yes.
So it's not as safe as you think it is.
No.
So, and guys still getting hurt, right?
Well,
so
how do you stop that?
You can't stop it. That's the point.
Yeah, right.
That's the point. You got people trying to wear the halos on their heads, and they still getting hurt.
Yes.
So the game itself is a physical game. But I think the recovery aspect of it is one thing that we need to look into.
So, Emmitt, there are 2 different treatments. One's that stimulate neuroplasticity and can bring back a concussed brain. One's called neurofeedback, and the other's called RTMS. And they've been shown to rewire the brain.
Okay.
So, to your point, we just set up a new concussion foundation to try to push these healing modalities.
Right. It's the recovery part, which is on the healing side. So if I'm concussed, do I come back the next week? No.
That's a great question.
So it's a matter of time that you give to have these type of treatments in order to make sure that the person is truly okay.
Did Leigh ever represent you?
No, he should have.
Why?
He had a gang of quarterbacks.
Oh, he's a
and I was on the
guy.
other side of the. I was on.
But when you were playing, the running back was valued. You're the man. What the hell, Leigh?
I used to tell Troy, okay, now look, you take the ball all the way down the field, and Emmitt takes the ball down the field, and then he scores, all right? So your stats are 2 touchdown passes instead of 5. I said,
geez.
Troy, tell Emmitt the ball must pass the end zone marker on the fly.
On the fly?
On the fly.
Well, they had an option to get it in on the fly. I can't help because Irv and Harper would fall down at the 1. That wasn't Troy's fault. That was their fault. And so when they fell at the 1, they called the touchdown specialist to come in and make it happen.
Exactly.
To your point, all right, so you got big egos, right? I mean, everybody does, right? So when let's just say for the sake of argument, you're running it down the field, and you're killing, right? You're running it. And all of a sudden, you get to the 5.
Right.
And they call a pass, and it goes to Irvin, and Irvin dances in the end zone, and you're like, God dang.
No, that's today's football.
Okay.
That's today's football. Back in my day, we get down to the 5 or to the 1. Irv was coming off the field, and we was going too tight.
That's right.
And we was going to push that thing on in.
That's right.
And it wasn't a tush push neither.
And I had Gerald Johnson as a client, and I had Troy and Jason Garrett and Darren Woodson and all your teammates. They won 3 Super Bowls, 3 out of 4 years.
Yep.
Everyone's talking about 3 in a row. They won 3 out of 4 years.
Right, for sure.
Daryl Johnson came on here, and, as soon as he came on, we're yelling Moose, right? And I'm looking at him, honestly, and I'm looking at you, too. And you guys, your legs are the size of freaking – so I got to ask you, I grew up in Chicago, Gary, Indiana. Walter Payton was our guy. I'm older than you, but Walter Payton, man. And he ran a hill.
Right.
So we all ran a hill, right? I mean, hey, where's the hill? Walter's running the hill, we're running the hill. What did you do? Did you have a special workout? Like I see Derrick Henry's got chains on. He's doing, what did you do?
Well, I did some of what Walter did, too.
Did you?
I had the opportunity to spend time with Walter to understand his workout training regimen, and I started incorporating some of his training regimen into what I would do. Normally, back in our day, we didn't have specialty coaches that we can go and work out with, like you see with Derrick Henry. We worked out at the facility as a team doing different times a day. So there would be an 8 o'clock workout group or a 10 o'clock workout group or 7:30 or 6 o'clock workout group, early groups and so forth. And we would run around 8:30, all of us collectively. And so after that workout, then I go do additional stuff. And I would find me a hill. When I met Walter, I started looking for hills to run. And I found me a couple of hills right there in Valley Ranch. Before you go down, when you go into Valley Ranch, it was a hill that went down. But on the east side of Valley Ranch, there was a backside hill where a school was built that was about 300-400 yards, maybe 1,000 yards up a hill. And I would drive from Valley Ranch, our facility, up to that hill, park the car on the side of the road, and I would run that hill about 6 to 7 times. And it was like 300-400 yards, 45, 50-degree incline. And that was my way of adding in a little bit of extra work to help me be physically fit for what I had to go through that upcoming season. Now, protecting myself by being physically fit was one thing. Then recovery. We talk about recovery. I did massages twice a week. Mondays after games, I would get massages 2 hours each. And then on Fridays after practice, I would get chiropractic and 2 hours of massages before the game. So that was the way I took care of my body. And I would load up with water from Friday, Saturday, all the way up to Sunday before kickoff.
Why?
Why? Because I wanted to fuel myself up with the right things. I wanted to flush out whatever toxins was left over from the massages so I can flush things out of my body and be physically ready mentally and physically and emotionally ready to go for the game.
He was ahead of the curve.
Yes.
And today players are using hyperbaric chambers, they're using red light, they're using the meanie, they're using stem cells.
Right.
But what happened with Emmitt is he understood that to have any longevity, he had to treat his body like a tool, and he had to figure out ways outside of normal for prophylactically protecting the body and then rehabbing the body.
Correct. That he's absolutely right. I mean, when I think back to 95 when I met Dr. Robert Parker out of Dallas, and he was my chiropractor and been my chiropractor since then. And he's not my primary physician, but he is just as good. And he has advised me in terms of sharing with me what might be good for my body and how my body can process certain things. So when it come down to digestive minerals, I was taking digestive minerals in 95. I was taking probiotics in 95. I was taking calcium and iron and vitamin A, E, and EFAs, essential fatty acids. I was taking all of those back in 95 before they hit the shelf.
Yeah, right.
Before they hit the counters right now and everybody else is pushing these things. So, and the one thing I learned that some of these vitamins could be filled with fake stuff.
Additives.
Yeah, additives and everything else. And the one thing I trusted in my guy is his stuff was mostly natural. And the way he describes it, the way he works with it, and the way he thinks about it, His therapy is called muscle interactive therapy. So every muscle has to be tied to some form of ligament, nerve, and all these things, because you got to have these frequencies that go through the body. And we work through it all.
I want to ask you, staying healthy, I know you got to go in a minute, but Walter Payton told me one time, I just happened to, whatever, and he goes, I said, you never ran out of bounds. He goes, no, I could stay healthier by going and adding the hit. I put the hit on a guy. Right. I would make sure. Right. I don't remember you getting hurt.
And I got hurt. Trust me, I did.
Well, I mean, I guess I don't. I lived in Indiana. I didn't. I was like, hey, Emmitt's playing. I don't know, but that was sort of your style, wasn't it? Like you weren't running out of bounds.
I ran out of bounds because here's what I learned. Yeah. Here's what I learned, and I learned Clarence Shellman, who happened to be one of my running back coaches in throughout my 13, 15-year career. He shared with me, know when the journey's over. Which is protect yourself, know when the journey's over. Don't fight for inches unless you absolutely got to get an inch. If you got to get a yard, you get a yard. But you don't take unnecessary hits, because you're going to take plenty of hits anyway. So you're taking away an extra hit when you're going to get hit anyway. So, and the body can only take so many hits.
I know it, but all I know is what Peyton told me. You know what I mean? All I know, I'm like,
I get it. And trust me, I was like that too. And I know coaches that are like that too. Don't go out of bounds. Don't go out of bounds. Jim Brown said, "Don't go out of bounds. Don't go out of bounds." Okay, I get it, but knowing when the journey's over, why take that extra hit?
And you look at like Earl Campbell.
Yeah,
Earl Campbell took every hit.
Every hit.
And
no, you're right.
But the point is, running backs don't have longevity in general. So
right.
When you see someone like Emmitt play all those years effectively, then you have to,
I'm running out of bounds like, hey, but that's, all right, talk to me. So I want to get Narcan spray.
We're talking about health, and we're talking about prevention, and we're also talking about regenerative medicine. And so I'm here with Narcan nasal spray this weekend here in New Orleans to not only help spread more awareness around the opioid overdoses and the epidemics itself. And Narcan nasal spray is one of those sprays that can actually help save a person's life. Oftentimes, we see somebody non-responsive on the side of the road. We don't know if they're drunk, if they're knocked out, or whatever it is. But we never know in this day and age that they can actually be suffering from an overdose right there in front of us. And so we're trying to equip everyone. If you're walking around here in New Orleans, no matter who you are, if you got it in your purse, in your backpack, you can always save a person's life.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's one of the things is if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
So when someone has an opiate overdose, Narcan can save their life.
It reverse the effects of it. Almost like that. And if someone is out, whether or not they can be out, knocked out, they can be sleeping, but if you insert the nasal spray and give them a dose, it's not going to hurt them, it's not harmful to them, and they wake up great. But you can also get this over the counter as well. So just equip yourself and be ready.